And thank you so much for sharing your film with the Roxbury Film Festival. If we can, just give them another round of applause. If we could start by, if you could just say your name and the film, that would be great. And what was your inspiration in making the film?
My name is Gabriyèl Barlatier, and I directed Fou. My inspiration, well, I was in COVID, and at first I just felt stuck in quarantine, so it started out as a thriller, and it was actually a story about I was going to play the role of the girl, and I was stuck in a house with a very hyper-religious, overbearing grandmother, and in that version my mom played the mother, the grandmother, she's in the audience, and like everything was totally different. Then a few years later I realized that that wasn't the story I wanted to tell, and I just flipped it on its head and I just wrote a different story and turned it into a comedy because I wanted it to reflect more of my grandmother's experience because we didn't have a relationship. Because she had a disorder called hyperschizophrenia. So that's a long story short of how that all developed. It's kind of a long journey.
So actually the character, the daughter, was inspired by your grandmother?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Hi, I'm Sharon Samuels. I'm the director of 15 Lines. And the story was put together before I started in film. I worked as an architect for a lot of years in Chicago. And the story I put together from the experiences, some of my experiences, some experiences of my peers, and just the legacy that a lot of times African Americans don't have when it comes to, learning about their legacies and their abilities and, what they can do. And the character of Benjamin, I always think about historical. I'm a big fan of historical fiction. And so the character of Benjamin is based on Benjamin Banneker. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He was an African American, and he was a bunch of things. He was a scientist, he was an alchemist, he was a planner, and he was actually a part of the group that planned out Washington, D.C. And as I was doing my research, I read a lot about him, and he became an inspiration because I don't think a lot of people really know about him, so just a mix of all of that.
Nice. I really enjoyed the films, and one thing that just seemed to thread through all of the films is the importance of passing on the legacy and sometimes it just means listening, and other times it means teaching. And I think both these films captured that. Sharon, why was it important for you to make this film?
I think it was important, it first became important just because I think it was a personal story, obviously, and I think the struggles that people go through, especially artists, filmmakers are artists, architects are artists, the struggles that artists go through and with developing their craft, and I think especially a lot of African Americans have imposter syndrome. We suffer from that because sometimes we feel like we may, am I really supposed to be here? Am I really supposed to do this? So I think part of it came from that. Part of it came from making a decision about what you really want to do with your life, and that's a very hard thing. I mean, that was the beginning of it, and then the connection that sometimes people don't have with their parents, and how parents, especially I think parents of certain generations, try to shield their children from different things because they don't want them to get hurt. They don't want them to learn about family secrets, whether they're good or bad, so, and just that connection as well.
That trauma and that pain, they don't want them to experience it. And sometimes it's sharing those stories that helps them actually deal with some of the decisions that they need to make in their lives. So I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful story, and thank you for sharing. How about you?
Why was it important?
Why was it important for you to make this film?
I think it's important because, you know, in Caribbean families, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. There's a lot of stigma around anyone different, like whether it's because of your sexual orientation or because of the way you speak, speech impediments, like just little things that I grew up with along the journey of my childhood, realizing that, man, the gamun, the elders is how we call them in Creole, they're kind of judgmental, you know, and so I wanted to make a character that I saw reflected in my family, who is funny, who is, you know, you roll your eyes at, but, you know, I wanted them to change a little bit. I wanted them to see themselves a little bit different in a higher way, that they could change and that they could see someone different and like really accept them, because that's your family, you know. So I think that's why it's important, like just to love and accept people regardless of stigmas, because they just, you know, keep us more apart.
I love the way you intertwine the humor with the characters. I thought it was just fabulous. And coming from a West Indian family, I absolutely understand your statement. That was great. I know we may be a little bit limited on time, so I'd like to open it up to the audience for any questions.
Yes, I have a question. Did Benjamin go with the big horn, or did he go with his voice?
We don't know. To be continued. So it's meant to be, you know, we know that Benjamin has made a decision for himself. But we, you know, the audience is left wondering what that is. And the thing is, like, we may never know. We know that he made this decision based on things that had happened in the last couple of days and things that he realized. And it's his decision alone. You know, it's not really for the audience to know. You know, it's for him to know and for, you know, him to have confidence that he made the right decision.
Well, what I got out of it is that it doesn't matter, because once he has that drive, he can go with his boy and do well, and he can stay at that firm and do well. He
Correct.
just had to have that drive.
Yeah.
In my head, he went with his boy.
I know what I decided, but I won't say what I had decided. I won't say what I decided.
Are you planning to make either a feature film or a series out of what you did?
I'm not. I feel like the story wraps up pretty clearly. I have thought about making like a short book or like a children's book based off of it, and I know that's kind of backwards because you usually do the book and then the film, but visually I think it could be fun to explore, especially watching all like the animation. Yeah.
I thought about it. I've been having that conversation, just of making it a feature. I think there's a lot more to explore with Benjamin and his family, so it's not off the table. I don't think. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I thought that though the subject matter was slightly different, but it was done well and very gentle. I liked how Nia had to feel comfortable enough to be able to be herself, and she knew how to shield herself when she felt she was unsafe. And I thought she did that very well. You had to pay attention. Both your movies, you could look, I would want to see again, because I know I missed something, you know, to get the story again. And just with the Benjamin, we do come, I like how you didn't have the friend to really pressure him, but to also encourage him. Even though he had his own dream, that he didn't really shadow his life and his possibilities. So I thought it was handled very well and very gentle, and it made me want more. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just a question on the film Fou. I'm curious on your decision to explore the mental health issues through the lens of the grandmother as opposed to the grandmother. I'd just love to know what led you there.
That's a great question. It was always gonna be, so at first when it was a thriller, it was the grandmother who had this hyper fixation around like her religion, and that was actually linked to her paranoia. But in this version, I decided to go with the daughter because I did a lot of researching and spoke to a lot of people with dissociative identity disorder, and they all had an agreement that they hated how they were portrayed in media and that they were always portrayed as monsters. So thank you for saying that it was gentle, because that was my intention, was to look at this from the perspective of the grandmother, because this is happening through her eyes of what we would see, you know, like, because when you see someone who's like having a seizure, an episode, or like switching personalities, like, you don't know what's happening, but you still have to have kindness and compassion. Figure
exactly.
it out in your own way. And so this was just about it wasn't really about the granddaughter as much as it was about Fufu, you know, realizing it for herself, how she could help the granddaughter rather than the granddaughter having to change and join her identities and be different than what she was.
And it certainly spoke to the grandmother's love for the granddaughter, enough to be able to put aside what, of course, she had to be reminded by her son, this is your granddaughter, what's more important? But I really love the way she pivoted in a way, and certainly that was out of the love she has for her granddaughter and her desire to be able to strengthen their relationship. You know, it was wonderfully done.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Any other questions?
I would like to basically first and foremost thank the Roxbury International Film Festival for creating this amazing block. It really has deeply connected with myself, and I want to appreciate you, the filmmakers. Each of you have the care that you with the characters, and just finding the inspiration to tell these unique stories about how family is connected throughout our journey. Sharon, we actually have something in common. We actually, you're a cinematographer. We work together, believe it or not.
Nope, not me. I'm a production, I'm an art director. It's my day job. Not me. I'm not a cinematographer.
So I was like, yeah, your cinematographer, Patrick Charles, I just thought, I was like, oh, wait.
Oh, you said my cinematographer. I thought you said I'm a It's late, y'all. It's past my bedtime. I go to bed at 9 o'clock, so this is late. I thought he said yeah, Patrick. He's great.
So my question to you is, what drove you to basically tell these unique perspectives of your main characters for them to find the connection to basically find whatever it is their journey is? To find a connection to basically where their end goal was going to be.
Kind of what drove me. I mean, I think just because in general in architecture there aren't very many African Americans, and even I'm a licensed architect in Illinois, and I was only like the 10th black woman in Illinois, and I got licensed in 2008. So I bet, just from those statistics, and only like 3% of licensed architects in the US are African American, or something like that. It could have changed because I haven't looked at it a long time, but I think what drove me is to say that a lot of history across any profession, anything, a lot of history where, African Americans have contributed has been lost because it's not documented. Or you were pushed out, or you were, like the dad who wanted to go to architecture school, or even the great-grandfather who, he didn't go to architecture school, he was working, which was customary back in these days, but he couldn't get the recognition he deserved. So just paying tribute to, all those people who, I guess, kind of made it possible for me to take that path. Was kind of, you know, the underlying, I guess, inspiration for that story.
Thank you. Well, that's amazing, actually. I didn't know you were also an architect and a filmmaker. Wow. What was the question?
What drove you to, what drove you to inspiration to,
What drove you to find basically the goal for the main?
the goal for the main character?
From your perspective.
Oh, okay. Well, the goal for the main character is to get her pepper. That's really it. And you know, Sonny, yeah, the girl is, because that's like a realistic goal for her situation that day. But the girl Fani, she changes her goal in a way. Well, she still gets what she wants. She gets her meal, but now she just has to deal with that obstacle of like, all right, figuring out how to deal with and accommodate someone like this and get along with someone like this while she's pursuing her goal. And so they kind of blend their worlds for that.
Thank you both for being here and sharing your stories again. Please, we got to close out right now, but another round of